All right, Evan, can you hear us out there in the Zoom world? You can't hear anything? Okay. Commissioner Delves, can you hear us okay out there?
I sure can.
Super. Okay, thanks.
Yep. Hey, Brandon,
Yes, just remember everyone in the chambers can hear you right now.
that's fine.
Okay.
I have to rethink this.
There you go.
Actually, I just want to make sure that I'm not recused from Landy. That's exactly one block south of my house.
Okay, you are recused from that one?
But I think I should be, but I didn't go out and pace it to make sure. It's close. So it's a question. Yeah,
Okay, I think we ran the list. I think the distance is probably okay, based
Okay.
on, yeah.
Brandon, I'll double check it right now.
Okay, yeah, Evan can double check for us, thanks.
Thanks, Evan.
So this one, okay, now I can hear it. Okay. Commissioner Bolton, are you there?
Yep, I'm right
Okay,
here.
So you're ready. All right. Okay, everyone, I'm going to call the regular meeting of the Carmel-by-the-Sea Planning Commission to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Allen? Here. Commissioner Bolton?
Here.
Commissioner Delves? Commissioner Locke? And Chair LePage?
Here. Commissioner Locke is absent. You've got that registered. Thank you. Okay, I want to welcome everybody here tonight. It's nice to see your faces in the council and those of you on the Zoom. Okay, the first item on our agenda tonight are the public appearances. Members from the public can speak to the commission about any matters of municipal concern. These items will not be on our agenda tonight, and they will not receive any discussion, but they may be agendized for future discussion at a future date. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address the Planning Commission on any items which are municipal concern, which are not on our agenda tonight? Okay, I don't see any hands going up here in the council chambers. Anybody in the Zoom? Don't see any hands going up, so we will move on to the next item on our agenda, which is announcements. Are there any announcements from staff?
No, sir, thank you.
Any announcements from any of the commissioners? Okay. Next item on the agenda tonight is the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are routine in nature and do not require discussion or independent action. Members of the commission or the public may request that any item be pulled for further discussion. We have 3 items on the consent agenda tonight. The first one is a design study. It's a final. It's a DS 22150. It's consideration of final design study for the demolition of 4 hotel rooms at the Carmel Resort Inn and the construction of a 1,971 square foot 2-story residence, inclusive of a 300 square foot basement and a 200 square foot attached garage. And it's located on the southeast corner of Guadalupe and First Avenue in the R1 district. The next item, item number 2 on the consent agenda, is the general plan and housing element annual progress reports. And the third item is the monthly activity report from the planning and building department. So do any of the commissioners have any questions or want any of these items pulled for further discussion? Anyone from the public want any of these items on the consent agenda pulled for questions or further discussion? Okay, seeing none, then I will make a motion that we accept items 1, 2, and 3 on the consent agenda.
I can second that.
We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Bolton,
Yes.
Commissioner Delves,
Yes.
Chair LePage.
Yes. Motion is carried. Okay, that moves us to the public hearings tonight. And the first item on the public hearings is a design study. This is DS 21376. It's the Mardani project. It's a consideration of a concept design study for a substantial alteration to an existing single-family residence, including demolition of more than 50% of the exterior walls, construction of a 363 square foot addition, and construction of a 200 square foot attached garage. And it's located on Ocean Avenue 4 northeast of Guadalupe Street. Can we have the staff report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. While Marnie's pulling that up, and I believe Joel switching it over to the big screen here, I just wanted to confirm that while we were waiting, Evan, our local GIS wizard, was able to be sure that Commissioner Delves is not recused from that item. He missed it by 4 houses, so
So he's not recused?
he is not recused.
Okay.
That's right.
All right, well, good afternoon, Chair and members of the Planning Commission. The project before you this afternoon is a concept design study for the Mardani property. So this project is a substantial alteration to an existing single-family dwelling. It includes demolition of more than 50% of the exterior walls. The lot size is 2,500 square feet, and the existing cottage is 562 square feet. The applicant is proposing to construct a 200 square foot attached garage, as well as a 363 square foot rear addition. So the total proposed square footage is 1,125. So tree permit 21099 was approved by the city forester for the removal of tree number 8, which is located at the front of the cottage. The city forester did not require any replanting for this tree removal. The text here in red are amendments to the staff report that was provided. So trees number 4 and 5 near the rear of the property were both rated significant by the city forester, and she is recommending a 10-foot structural root zone around both of those trees. So what that means is that any excavation or change in grade must be approved first by the city forester. So it's not a hard and fast no build zone. It just identifies that this could be a critical root zone that helps support the structure of the tree, and so we want to be really careful with any excavation. So staff has included a condition of approval number 1 regarding the 10-foot structural root zone, and staff is recommending that that be amended to also include tree number 4. Also, I want to note that because the backyard is raised up at a higher elevation than tree number 4, it's possible that there won't be any interference with the roots, but we certainly won't know that until some root exploration is done. Also, staff has included condition of approval number 3, recommending that the applicant apply for a tree application for the proposed limb removals, and do that before the final details. That way, if those limbs cannot be removed, they can adjust the design before final details. With respect to privacy and views, staff did not identify any privacy impacts, so I won't kind of belabor this slide. This just shows you a comparison of the existing cottage and what is proposed. As you can see, the existing cottage is right in the middle. The garage is to one side, the addition is to the other. But none of the windows appear to create any kind of privacy impacts to any of the neighbors. Staff did recommend that the window in the addition on what is the west elevation be reconsidered just for the occupant's own personal privacy. It's a very large window in a bathroom, in a new bathroom. Staff was contacted by the neighbor to the northeast, and these photos were provided by the neighbor. He does have some concerns, as all of his living space, as we saw on site today, faces to the west, and he is concerned about the project blocking both his view of the tree canopy as well as light into his primary living spaces. So with respect to views, the residential design guidelines has an objective to protect privacy and views for neighbors. Residential design guideline 5.2 says to maintain view opportunities to natural features that lie outside the property, and also locate buildings so they would not substantially block the views enjoyed by others. The guidelines also talk about maintaining views through a property to natural features when this is feasible, and to locate major building masses to maintain some views through the site to other properties. So this is a very small site. It is constrained. The additions are single story. I think the topography creates a unique challenge in that the addition is raised up higher than the existing cottage. And so we're asking the commission just to consider that as part of the concept review. A little bit of history on this property. This used to be the location of the Buena Vista cottages. So these 5 cottages, they were all built at the same time in, I believe it was 1946, as single-family homes. At some point, they were converted to a motel use. And in 1965 is when the circular driveway at the front of the property was installed. By 1974, these cottages were converted back to single-family residential use. And in the 80s, 2 of the 5 cottages were remodeled and expanded. The remaining 3 cottages remain intact, almost original to their construction. And the driveway has remained in use since that time as well, and is shared by the 3 remaining cottages, both for access and circulation. So this is just a Google Street View that shows a picture of the driveway. You can see the entry is on the right-hand side, the exit is on the left, east is to the right, west is to the left. So the applicant is proposing to construct an attached garage. This would provide enclosed parking for them on the property. It is set back 15 feet from the front property line. The applicant is also proposing a 2-foot concrete wall in the front setback on that west property line. And there's some concerns about this wall obstructing the existing circulation pattern that is currently used by the other 2 cottages. Staff is concerned from a safety standpoint of forcing the other 2 cottages to use the west driveway for entry and exit only, and their ability to maneuver their vehicles. So for that reason, staff is recommending that the wall be removed and that the existing circulation pattern be retained. So this is a survey that shows the location of the driveway as it exists today. And I apologize, I didn't highlight it, but if you can see my mouse, the concrete wall is kind of in this location. So it would encumber a significant portion of the existing driveway. And you can see here, there's a small grove of trees. So there are some site constraints. This is a very unique condition that we don't see around town. These are all, 3 very small lots. So for safety reasons, staff is recommending that the wall be eliminated to maintain that circulation pattern. So with respect to mass and bulk, again, there's the 3 remaining cottages are intact. They're very small in size. You can see them in the picture here from the project site is on the far right. But surrounding the project, there's a 2-story building to the east, and then also a 2-story building to the north. So the applicant is proposing a cottage that is slightly taller than what is there today. The existing 8-foot plate height is proposed to be increased to 12 feet at the front of the property. The ridge height would also increase from just under 12 feet to a little bit over 14 feet. Let's see. So the residential design guidelines talk about keeping buildings at a human scale. Staff is recommending that the plate and the ridge height at the front of the cottage be lowered. Even though there are taller homes to the east and to the north, the scale of the cottage with such a high plate height, it just appears to be a little bit too massive. So staff has included a special condition to address this. With respect to building form and roof form, the existing cottage has a hipped roof pitched at 4 and 12, which the guidelines do encourage the 4 and 12 pitch. The proposed gable roof forms would also be pitched at 4 and 12. The garage and the cottage would have front-facing gables, whereas the addition at the rear would have a side-facing gable. And staff did not identify any conflicts with the proposed roof plan and the residential design guidelines. With regards to finished details, the applicant is proposing a composite shake roof, also vinyl windows in a bronze finish, a light gray stucco that almost appears to be closer to white than gray, a wood garage door also painted bronze, calstone sandset pavers, and then a gooseneck style light fixture also with a bronze finish. So staff has included a couple conditions asking for a sample of the shake roof before final details, asking that the vinyl windows be replaced with another material, either unclad wood or aluminum clad wood would be most appropriate for the architectural style. And then also a sample of the paint color. And I think that covers the special conditions on finished details. So staff is recommending that the commission adopt a resolution accepting the concept design study with the conditions outlined in the resolution. I do have them listed here, and I'm just going to go through them very quickly. The first one, again, staff is recommending that it be amended to include tree number 4, so that deals with the structural root zone, requesting a preliminary landscape plan, the tree application for limb removal of the concrete wall, creating a more human scale at the front where the garage has that 12-foot plate height, providing a roof sample. Staff is also requesting some additional elevation datum on heights, just so that we can confirm those, as well as the roof eave dimensions, the paint color sample, a change in the window material, and then an exterior lighting plan, which is typical for final details. Staff is also recommending that the rear yard retaining walls be eliminated from the plan because they are in that 10-foot structural root zone area. And so again, staff is recommending that be amended to also include tree number 4 as well as 5. The double wood gate and pedestals at the front of the property, there's just a very slight encroachment into the front setback, so that condition will address just pulling that back just a little bit, providing site coverage calculations, completing the volume study, providing a preliminary grading and drainage plan. And then one other addition that staff is recommending for this project is a construction management plan. Due to the narrowness of the lot, as well as the shared access between the three properties, this seems like a good project to have a construction management plan on how you're going to handle, your trucks and your deliveries and your on-site storage of materials throughout construction. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff and the commissioners? Mr. Delves, Commissioner Bolton?
Yeah, I have one,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman. It's about the driveway and the access. Are there easements in place on one or all three of these properties recognizing the shared access?
There are no recorded easements.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bolton, any questions?
Not now, thank you.
Marnie, I just had a quick question on the draft condition for removal of the 2-foot wall. What's the finding? Is it just a safety issue or?
Yes, staff is recommending that it be removed for safety reasons. If the commission finds that the wall is appropriate and can remain, there is a discussion in the staff report about the treatment of the wall. But staff does feel that introducing that wall into the driveway is going to create a safety situation for the existing circulation pattern. And we do think that it should stay open.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that concludes the staff report. So at this time, the applicant or the applicant's representative can come forward and make their presentation to the commission. Oh, before I start, typically I allow applicants 5 minutes to make their presentation. The public is allowed 3 minutes to make their comments. If need be, I will allow the applicant to come back and answer some questions or rebut some of the comments. So, as I said, this time I'd like to invite the applicant or the applicant's representative to come up and address the commission. Are you ready to come forward?
Hi, hello everybody. So I'm just represents my clients here. She's the owner of this properties, and she sets a dream that she can raise her 2 kids. She's just a single mom, and then just want to have a small cottage and have a nice place and raise her 2 kids. So we has been, I have to say this project, we have been revised at least like 4 or 5 times on the plans because the neighbor comments and the concern from the city. So we end up just want to have just a fairly basic, because our cottage right now we're too small for 3 persons, a mom and 2 boys. So she just want to have another extra room that's for her kid, and just like the garage and like close the neighbor for her kid to save and play inside the footprint of the house. As you can see, Oceans Avenue is really crowded, and it's really hard, just like unsafe for kids. Sometimes they just play ball or something outside and go to the neighbor. So I hope for people here to approve the plans. And regarding to the comments that about the 2 feet curved wall, and so the property owner had no problem with removing it, and we actually consider removing it, and we will adjust the plans in the final approval.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
So please let me know if you have any questions.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant? Come forward into the microphone.
I believe my attorney, Mr. Tarapani, is on the Zoom meeting, and he has a question. He's gonna speak, from,
Somebody on the
on
Zoom?
behalf of me, basically. Yes.
Sir, you'll need to unmute yourself, please.
About that.
There you go.
Excuse me. I'm Tom Trapani and I represent Ms. Mardani. We had a question about the driveway situation. If the easements are not able to be put in place, can the middle cottage have a driveway that goes directly to the street?
Staff want to answer that?
Sure. So the middle property would have to apply for a driveway to the street. They could theoretically get one. It would require a removal of, the several, healthy trees that are in there. So the short answer for the Planning Commission is yes, they could. They'd have to go through the process of getting it approved, encroachment permits, tree removal. There would be consideration for the fact that there's one existing driveway already onto the site. As Mrs. Waffle said, that it's all shared right now. Those two units would be using just the one driveway in and out, backing in and out of Ocean. But in theory, there could be a driveway that could go there, yes.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's what the question that we had. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. All right, at this time, I'd like to invite members of the public to come up and make their comments.
Planning Commissioners, I'm Dan Silveri, General Contractor, and I've been a consulting contractor to the Cass family that are next door to the project that's up. I've been on the driveway. I'm a lifelong resident of Carmel. Went to Sunset School. In my younger years, that intersection was a good place to burn rubber from when you came out of Carpenter and Ocean Avenue there. We built a house right around the corner from there. It's been many years ago now, but that's a busy intersection. I don't need to tell you that. It's really dangerous if that wall were allowed to go up and block that curvature. The ingress and the egress out of that driveway is almost imperative to the other homes that are on that little curved driveway. When you come in from the I don't know if we'll call it the north end, you can easily get in and you can easily get out. But as you egress out of that driveway, about the only way to do it because of traffic constraints is to make a right turn, start down Ocean Avenue, and then make the next right and go back around the block and come back up to the intersection. And I'll tell you, as I said, I've been living here all my life, and that traffic you've got a lot of tourists that are not paying attention. And they're not going to look for cars coming out of that driveway. If that wall comes across there, it's going to cause a problem to do I don't know what you call it, a 9-point turn in that driveway area for the other houses to get back out. But it'd really be very difficult, and in my opinion, very, very dangerous and libelous for anybody trying to use that. And I don't see the wall as being that much of an advantage to the home that they want to remodel. It's still easily available to have the garage and be able to enter into the garage area. I didn't see the elevations on the wall, but it doesn't look like to me it would be that big a problem for the folks that are going to remodel their other house too. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Come on up to the microphone. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. I'm one of the owners in the middle unit, and my name is Tim Cass. Just to address the wall again, if that wall were permitted to be in place, the Mardani property would have to back out into Ocean Avenue, cross both lanes to go. Our property would be the same way. If there was a middle driveway, we would have to back out. If we were using the driveway on our west side, we would both have to back out as well. And the blind spots, when you do back out, it's hard enough when you're faced out to get out into the flow. When you back out, you can't see the oncoming cars coming down Ocean Avenue. So I think it would be a very big safety issue, and I appreciate your consideration for removing the wall. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else like to make a comment regarding this application? I see a neighbor coming forward.
Good afternoon. Mark Boyd. My family owns the property on 6th Avenue, which shares a property line with this property. As you saw on the tour, 3 of our windows, the main orientation of our house is to directly west, the living room, a master bedroom, and the kitchen. Those are primary windows. They all face west towards this, the rear addition. Okay, so we're, in its present form, we're opposed to this project. Although we do appreciate the fact there's no window on the east side of the rear addition. We do appreciate that. And you know, I have pictures here, and I'm happy to leave them with you, but you could see, you know, to me, this is spectacular, looking out towards the west. You know, this is from our kitchen window. Now, this is going to disappear. It's going to be, we're going to have about this much once this rear addition, is built. You know, it's going to cut at least half. This is our kitchen window. Okay, spectacular. I mean, to me, it's opinion, but these are spectacular views. And this is the property was purchased by my mom, my family, just over a year ago, and this was the primary attraction, the feature that we really fell in love with, and my mom fell in love with, and the house is much like her house, and she's just, just fell in love with it. And here's the kind of a collage of pictures. So the rear addition is directly to the west, as you saw on the tour. The shade factor, when the sun, as you could see in the pictures, you could see the sunlight coming through. The sun is setting directly, going to set right over the rear addition, and it's going to take out this view. You can see the sunlight here. So, it's going to create a lot of shade on our property. There's only a 3-foot setback on this rear addition. Our house has a 5-foot setback. So that's one thing we would like to ask for, is a 5-foot setback. Okay, and then the height. The height is, the wall is 2 feet. So I would hope that the wall, the step up in the back is we would like to see less than 2 feet, the step up to the rear addition. We're also concerned that the impacts are negative impacts. Significant negative impacts are in addition to the shade, there's the sunshine, as I mentioned, the sun sets as it filters through those trees. It's just, to me, I love trees, and it's spectacular. The forest character around this house is just, it's hard to imagine a more attractive property in terms of forest character. So it's very disappointing to have that part of our house, that amenity, removed. So in the air, the coastal air going across from the ocean to our house is going to be interfered with. In addition to the shadows, and there is a privacy concern. I know they said there's no privacy concern, but they have like a patio. And it's a little elevated. It's going to be over the roof, over our...
Sorry, I hate to interrupt, but you're going over your 3 minutes. So if you could just quickly
thank you.
Summarize.
So we'd like to see the roof line dropped, a couple of feet if possible. We'd like to see the setback. We'd like to see those patio doors. It looks like on the plan that they're opening outward. If that's so, we would rather have if they opened inward, so they don't add more blockage to our views when they're open. So I think...
Okay, thank you.
I think that's it. Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Thanks for your comments. Could
There's
you leave your photos here?
Yes, sure.
So we can take a look at those.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, are there any other members of the public that would like to address the Planning Commission regarding this application? Sure, come forward.
Want to wait since this is
Well,
the
let me see if there's any more public comments, then I'll allow you time
at the
to
very
rebut.
end. We usually let the applicant come up at the very end if you
So
want.
are there any other members from the public that would like to make a comment? Anybody online? Anybody's hand going up? I don't see anybody. Okay, doesn't seem like it. Come forward.
So far, this is the fourth plan we are submitting to the city, and the other one was the second story, which it doesn't interfere with Mr. Boyd, basically privacy, and it's going to be only from the existing cottage go up, that bedroom and bathroom. The problem is Mr. Cass didn't let me cut the tree. And also they're filing a lawsuit against me because of the easement. But that matter, I don't think is, it's a city basically the concern. But I'm more than happy to not build the bedroom and the backyard, which is going to interfere with the privacy of Mr. Boyd. And I'm going to go with the second story, if that is the, that is the basic proper way that city let me do it. By doing that, actually, I'm not losing the whole backyard. I have 2 kids, and there is no other space for them to play with. Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, we appreciate your willingness to make changes to accommodate the neighbors' concerns. Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing, open it up to the commissioners for their comments. Commissioner Allen, you're here, so everybody else in the Zoom, everybody else is further away, so we'll start with the nearest and work further away.
Can we start with another commissioner?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
So the next closest would be Commissioner Bolton.
Like physically closest or closest on a Zoom call? Anyway. First, I think basically staff did a great job, as always, but they did a particularly good job on this one. They identified the primary issues and secondary issues, all the issues. I have 4 concerns. Number 1 is the driveway. I understand there's no easement, I heard that, but I don't see how this is not a big safety issue. I was on site today, and I would never want to back out of either end of the horseshoe-shaped driveway. So I can't support that front wall. I find that makes it basically impossible to use the driveway for the neighbors. So I don't support that, and I agree with the staff. I also agree with staff on the front elevation. I think it's too tall, especially the garage. There's an awful lot of building above the garage doors, and I think that needs to be reworked to be a more human scale and more appropriate to the size of the doors in the front of the house. The color, I heard it was getting to be an awfully light shade of gray. So at final, I'd really be unhappy if I had to disapprove because of a white house. And then I have some small concern about the rear neighbor and their sun shading and and not so much privacy because there's no windows, but really it's about sun shading and possibly view enjoyment. I'm not sure there's a lot that can be done. I understand the site constraints, kind of a weird, tiny site. Maybe if that building could be reduced in height at the rear, the new addition, by maybe a foot. I note on the plans there's a 30-inch elevation change from the interior between the rear new room and the adjacent interior space. So if we could get that down to 18 inches or something, maybe that would help with the rear. I think it would help a lot, actually. It would provide a lot more light from the west to the neighbor that's to the east. And that's really it. Otherwise, I just agree with the staff. I think this is a kind of complicated, weird site, and they did an excellent job, and I appreciate it. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Bolton. Commissioner Dells, you're the next furthest away.
I am. I agree with Commissioner Bolton on all that he just said. This is it's tight. It's a tight place in the town. Just there's a lot of humanity and a lot of small buildings all coming together there. The driveway is a real concern, and I, as a planning commissioner, I don't know how much we can influence this, but it would seem to be to everyone's benefit to have easements recorded across all 3 of these parcels, so that all 3 of them can enjoy a free entrance and exit without having to reverse onto what I agree is probably one of the most scary places in the town to have to reverse into. And it just seems like it's a win-win-win to do that. It sounds like there's no resistance to removing the wall, so I think that absolutely has to happen. In terms of the height of the rear addition, again, I'll agree with Commissioner Bolton that I would like to see and understand, maybe from the applicant or the applicant's designer or architect, is it possible to even get a few inches back in lowering that height? But I also think that that the applicant just suggested that she'd be willing to do a second story, and that's impossible for us to judge here to know if that's a better option or a worse option. So the option in front of us is to have that addition in the back. It's a one-story addition in a neighborhood where most of the additions have been allowed to be 2 stories. So I'm inclined to be supportive and just would like to understand what's possible from the designer. Other than that, I've read the resolution and all the conditions. I think staff has it right at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Delves. Commissioner Allen?
Mr. Chair, could I just respond to one thing I heard Commissioner Delves say?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So I think Commissioner Delves asked the question, where the Planning Commission's authority lies with respect to requiring easements or guiding toward easements. And the Planning Commission doesn't have any authority there, does not have any authority with respect to that. I think it was mentioned in passing during the testimony, but the neighbors are, I believe, in the midst of a civil action between the 2 properties regarding whether or not there's a prescriptive easement there. Obviously, the city is not a party to that legal action. But as far as the Planning Commission's authority, there is none to require any sort of easement in this situation.
Thanks for that clarification. Okay, Commissioner Allen, would you like to make your comments?
Yeah, so I would agree with the other commissioners' comments. The thing that I was a little bit concerned about with this one is that there are so many things that we don't have that I feel like I don't feel comfortable with the resolution tonight. So that's what I'm struggling with. Totally understand from the applicant's, totally understand from the applicant's standpoint, the difficulties with this project, and then also understand from the neighbor's point of view their concerns. Again, I would not recommend the wall. I would not vote for the wall, and I would lower the plate height, and I would, to Commissioner Delves' comment, because we don't have anything besides this project in front of us, I would potentially recommend taking some time so that the applicant could decide what has the least impact within the context of the neighborhood. But yeah, I'm struggling with this one.
Thank you, Commissioner Allen. This is concept, and the purpose of concept is to give direction for impacts. And this property is an exceptionally small lot. And obviously because of that, you've got more potential for impacts. So I think that staff has done a good job of identifying all the potential impacts. So what the purpose of this meeting is for the applicant is to take the staff's comments, the draft conditions, and then the direction from the Planning Commission, and come up with a better design that has less impacts on the neighbors. So it already sounds like that 2-foot wall is a non-issue. That's going to be taken away. That has to go away. The bigger challenge is how to mitigate the impacts to the neighbor to your east, because he has some pretty prominent views across that property. My suggestion would be to possibly lower the addition, cut it into the grade a little more, although that could be problematic because you're close to the trees. so that might not be available. Probably an easier direction to go would redesign the roof. Rather than going with a gabled roof, you might want to go with like a shed roof, or you might want to go with some type of roof that comes up partially pitched and then has a flat section on the top. I'm not coming up with any design, but what I saw was that roof is what's primarily impacting the neighbor there. So if you can lower that roof design some way, that should help go a long way to mitigate the impacts of the neighbor. Now, if there is a new roof design proposed, you're going to have to reflag it so that everybody can see what those impacts can be. And I want the neighbor to understand this process. That's how we do it. We do it incrementally. We don't just come back without changing things to show what is being proposed. And that's why with the second story addition, we can't even really consider that at this time. I appreciate the fact that you're willing to make changes to help mitigate these impacts, and that's what this process is all about. So other than that, I think that staff has a good resolution. I really wouldn't make any changes. So I'll make a motion that we accept the resolution as per staff and with the draft conditions as per staff, unless some of the other commissioners want some more direction given there. I see Commissioner Delps, you want to chime in there?
To your point about addressing the roof on the rear addition, that's really, unless I'm missing it, I don't see that as a condition. And I think you're asking for it to be a condition.
Would you say that again? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
So I don't see a condition in the resolution asking the applicant to lower the roof line on the rear addition.
Okay, good point. Then I will add a special draft condition that the applicant lower the roof line or redesign the roof to mitigate the view impacts to the neighbor to the east.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there any more discussion? Looking this way. I'm expecting to see some, like you said. All right. Hearing none, can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Allen,
No.
Commissioner Bolton,
Yes.
Commissioner Delves,
Yes.
Chair LePage.
Yes. Okay, the motion is carried. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate all your comments and discussion. Okay. Next item on the public hearings tonight is item number 5. Give everybody a minute here to clear out. Okay, this is a design study. This is DS 23-006, the Sweet Trust. This is consideration of a Tract 1 major design study referral for the demolition of a 483 square foot detached garage storage room and the construction of a 200 square foot detached garage in the side yard setback at the historic Reginald Markham House, located at southwest corner of Casanova Street and 11th in the R1 district. Can we have staff report, please?
Hey, Joel, it's not letting us, there we go. Thank
There
you.
go. You got it now.
All right.
All right, thank you for the introduction. This is the SWEET project. It's a Tract 1 referral for the historic Reginald Markham House, constructed in 1927, located southwest Casanova and 11th. It's a Spanish eclectic Moorish style home that is listed on our inventory. It's a 6,200 square foot lot. And they are proposing to demolish the existing 483 square foot garage and storage room and replace it with a new 200 square foot garage. They'll also be demolishing and reconstructing the landscape wall that connects the garage with the main home. The project plans also include a 500 square foot ADU, which is not subject to, and that should say Planning Commission review. So this is coming to the Planning Commission because the new garage is proposed to be constructed within the side yard setback, and that necessitates certain findings made by the Planning Commission. So again, the description is a new garage, and it's fronting 11th Avenue. At the Historic Resources Board meeting in February, they determined the garage has lost integrity, but that the proposed project is consistent with the Secretary of the Interior standards. They did have one condition, and that is that the stucco on the new garage should be compatible with the house, but slightly different in texture and application method to allow for that appropriate differentiation. Here you can see the existing garage and storage outlined in red, and the new garage outlined in green. One change to the proposed garage is that it'll be moved 3 feet off the west property line towards the east. So it's no longer in the rear setback, but it is still in the street-facing side setback. The current garage is 8 feet tall, and it'll be increased in height to 9 foot 2.5 inches. Here's just a close-up of the changes, and you can see that ADU behind the garage, but that's not part of our review this evening. Here, the top image is showing the view looking west, just with a door accessing the garage, and then at the bottom we have the garage looking east, and there's no openings on that elevation. So the new garage is limited to just 200 square feet because the property currently exceeds floor area. However, a 200 square foot garage is permitted because it's required parking. A minimum of 200 square feet is reserved for parking. However, because it's in the side yard setback, we're here this evening. So the Planning Commission may authorize a garage if it meets these 5 conditions. So the first one is that at least 50% of the adjacent right-of-way should be landscaped or preserved in a natural and forested condition. And the staff response to this is that the landscape is presently landscaped and it will remain that way. The second finding is about the setback impacting significant or moderately significant trees. And because there's a garage there presently, there's no tree issue with putting back a garage. Finding 3 deals with the free and safe movement of pedestrians and vehicles. And there is space between, even though the new garage will be right at that property line, there is space between the street itself. And since a garage has been present in this location since 1927, staff doesn't anticipate a dangerous condition. Finding 4 is about the new development being in scale with adjacent properties and neighborhood context. And staff finds that this is a very modest garage that's being proposed, well under the height limit, and it will have the flat roof form similar to what's there now and the house. And it's very much in scale with the neighborhood context. The last finding is about the placement of the garage, adding diversity to the neighborhood streetscape. And there are no other garages abutting the right-of-way on 11th Avenue on this block. And so it does, in fact, add diversity to the streetscape. So these topics were all discussed in the staff report, but since this is just a track 1 referral, we're mainly here to discuss that garage in the setback. So if you have questions about this, I can return to them. But I just had a couple draft conditions. One, as you read in the staff report, that the stucco be compatible yet differentiated from the house. And then this was not included as a draft condition, but we can add it here this evening. The applicant is aware that there are environmental concerns with copper, but a scupper and downspout is proposed in copper. So we can discuss that this evening. And then I should also mention that the neighbors to the west of the subject property are supportive of the project. and no other correspondence has been received. So the staff recommendation is that you approve the Track 1 major design study with conditions for the demolition of a 483 square foot detached garage and construction of a 200 square foot detached garage in the street side yard setback. And that concludes my presentation. I believe we have the architect and applicant with us this evening, and a representative for the supportive West neighbors as well.
Okay, are there any questions for staff from the commission?
No, thanks.
No questions from Commissioner Dells or Commissioner Bolton? Okay, thank you very much. All right, at this time, I'd like to invite the applicant's architect to come forward and speak to us.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think staff did a really good job of presenting this. As you saw out on site today, we've got an existing 483 square foot structure there that we're taking down. Our original hope was that we could simply raise the roof on that and get some more headroom in there. Once we touch that building, we have to bring it into compliance with our square footage. So we're left with a 200 square foot garage. Again, it's consistent with the architectural style of the house. It's passed muster with the HRB. So hopefully it's a fairly straightforward project for you all to review, and I'll be here if you have any questions.
Okay, are there any questions for Justin from the commission?
Thanks.
Thank you, Justin. Okay, I see we have someone come forward. Come on up and speak to us.
Good evening, Commissioners. Christine Kemp. I'm representing Richard and Linda Barr, who are the neighbors to the east, and they appreciated, we requested that the garage be 3 feet off the property line as it exists now. It's on the property line and creates a wall right there. And the applicant agreed to do that, which we were very thankful for. And with that change, we support the project and ask you to approve it. Our only remaining concern is just the drainage, because that property sits a little higher than the Barr property, and I understand that'll be taken care of in the final review and the final drainage plans. So I just want to make sure we don't have runoff onto the Barr property. But thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to address the commission regarding this application? Okay, I don't see anybody. Oh, got it. No. I don't see any hands up. Okay, I'm going to close the public comments, open it up to the commission. Commissioner Allen, would you like to begin this time?
Sure. So I think that this is thoughtful, and I appreciate the applicant making the changes to accommodate some of the neighbors' concerns. So I have no problem with it.
Thank you. Commissioner Delves, you.
I have nothing to add. I'm prepared to support this resolution.
Thank you. And Commissioner Bolton?
Ben, I support it, so I have nothing to add.
I don't really have anything to add other than to say that that is a lovely home, and it was one of the benefits of being a planning commissioner is you get to go in those types of yards and look around. That is really one of the nicest pieces of property that I've seen in Carmel, and you're very, very lucky to have it. And you've got a great architect too. He's done a great job. So we have a resolution which just has some standard conditions, which, did you have a comment, Catherine?
Would you like to add a condition about the copper gutters?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Thank you.
I would like to, we don't really have a policy about that, but they do pollute, and there are other materials which you could use. So I would like to give direction to the applicant that they use a different material for that. I don't know how the other commissioners want to weigh in on that.
Mr. Chair, could I add just some context for
Yeah, go ahead.
listening? Okay, so this is one of those materials that's a beautiful material that we see all throughout the city. However, in recent years, the city has undertaken technical studies through the Public Works Department and the Environmental Compliance Division there. And we've learned that there are two main pollutants into our significant bay out here. One is fecal chloroforms. We all know what that is. And then the other is copper. And we, one of the things that's highlighted in that technical report that has been completed and sent to the city council, and so there is a policy in the works to make this more codified, but one of the things that's noted in there is water transferring features, things like downspouts, gutters, roofs, things that convey water, contribute significantly to leaching of those materials, the copper-laden materials, into the watershed. So that's where this is coming from. If you looked at our design guidelines right now, you would see that copper would probably fit from a design perspective, but there is we believe, and the city will be taking action in not too distant future to create more formalized policies. But this body has, over the last year or so, looked at copper not being appropriate because of those environmental impacts. So thank you for that indulgence. I just wanted to add some context there.
Okay. So the other commissioners want to make comment on that?
No, I think that's a good catch, and I support it. There's copper-colored things we could use instead of actual copper.
Commissioner Dells, do you have any comments, additional comments?
I agree with you, Michael.
And Commissioner Allen?
I agree. I think we should look at a different option.
Okay, and because it looks like Justin you want to make a comment on this? So I'll give you the opportunity to do that if you want to come up and make a comment.
I guess is the solution here stainless steel? Or are we doing copper covers over galvanized? Because we're in a pretty harsh marine climate. I mean, it's not easy to detail these buildings with the salinity in the air, and there are solutions. In Pebble, we have used stainless steel. We've also got the situation with the historic house, where we're likely not going to be touching much of the envelope where we do have copper. And I spend a lot of time in the Bay, so I don't want to come across as disrespectful of that impending regulation, but what are the recommendations of the city in terms of materiality? Are we going to shroud conventional gutters in copper so that the water isn't touching them? Or are we going to be making recommendations for blackened stainless steel or something like that? Because the alternatives can be costly.
Yeah, we don't really have the policy in place yet. It has been the direction of the Planning Commission for at least this last year or more to not approve copper because it became known it was a primary pollutant in the Bay, and obviously this is not a lot of copper that you're proposing, and so it's one of those things where it may or may not have a big impact, probably not. But for consistency's sake, that's why I personally am recommending that you don't use. There's other things you could do. I mean, the main thing people like about copper is, like you say, it's resistant to corrosion and also the color, Yeah. And so I think there's other materials, like you said, stainless steel, that are obviously resistant. They can be painted, maybe they can be treated. I'm not really up on the different techniques that are used to, treat stainless metal. I know that some other metals can be treated chemically to come up with different types of cosmetic, finishes. So that's pretty much all I have to add.
All right. And so this has been going on. We haven't been in front of the Planning Commission for some time.
Yeah, we've been doing this for at least a year, maybe longer now. And it was just primarily because we had this report that the director referenced. So that really gave us some data, and that this was a primary pollutant in our bay here. So.
Okay. So is this going to be a requirement or a recommendation?
We at the Planning Commission can make it a special condition. We do have that authority.
Okay.
And it sounds like the commissioners are going in that direction.
All right.
All right. So I'm going to have to allow other members of the public to come up and speak. So please come forward. Please come forward and make your comments.
I'm David Sweet, one of the.
Wait till you get to the microphone.
Get the mic there.
I'm David Sweet, one of the owners of the property with my wife Robin. I guess I just have a couple of questions about it. One is what Justin just spoke to, that because the house is on the historic listing, and there are other copper downspouts that face the street, that how this would fit with their, their requirements that the street side of the house maintain its historic integrity. That's my first question. And then the second question I have is would there be any consideration given if we're reusing the copper downspout that's there now rather than putting in a new one? So we're not adding a copper downspout to the city of Carmel. We're using, if we could use one that's there now, would that be open to consideration? Those are my questions.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Those are excellent questions. Any more discussion from the commissioners about that? I think those are good questions. Commissioner Dells, you look like you're leaning in there with something thought. Commissioner Bolton, go ahead.
Yeah, basically, like as far as the adding a new one or keeping an old one, it's not so much adding a new element of copper. It's just that we're trying to remove copper from the system entirely, right? So if you have an old one, it'll leach just like a new one would. And that's just the idea in my mind, at least. This isn't an absolute deal killer for me either. This is a very small element. But the one other comment that the owner made that struck me was that in general, the Historic Resource Board is looking for compatible but not identical when you're doing something like this. And I believe, in fact, with this new garage proposal is to be compatible and not identical. And so I would imagine potentially they could accept this downspout gutter change under the same exact theory. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Bolton. Commissioner Dells?
No, I'm struggling with it a little bit, and it is the historic things of this. I don't want to drive this applicant back to a process where they have to go back to the Historic Resource Board. So maybe I'm looking for some middle ground. I mean, he has to, if this is a suggestion or a requirement, I'm okay moving to suggestion that they work with staff to explore alternatives. And if those alternatives, in the opinion of staff, would create a situation of having to go back to the Historic Resource Board, that they be allowed to use copper in this instance. We don't have a new set of regulations on this. And anyway, I have some flexibility here.
Okay, those are good comments. Thank you. Commissioner Allen?
I agree with everything that was said. I have flexibility on this one too.
Okay, Brandon, so if would this send it back to the Historic Resources Board theoretically if they did?
Well, it's a great point, and I think Commissioner Delves may have found the sweet spot right in the middle there. So if the commission wanted to adopt a condition, because remember, this is not a preliminary, this is one and done.
Right.
So you're making your decision
This is
tonight.
final.
So that's correct. So if the commission wanted to make a condition that basically said, if an alternative can be found that doesn't require this to go back to the HRB, then great. Because the staff would make that determination whether or not the material, was so objectionable that it somehow impacted the historic resource. If they can't find something that is acceptable, then allow the copper to be put in, because as you all pointed out, and I mentioned, it's not codified. There's nothing, this is still discretionary, the copper situation. So you do still have the authority to allow copper to be put on. Just as a policy, we have not been. But this is a unique situation. It's a small portion of the house. So I think you're well within your rights as the Planning Commission to make this sort of special condition. And I don't believe this would be precedent setting. This is case by case. You're taking the merits of this specific project. So I think you'd be in a good position to do that.
Okay, Commissioner Dells, you want to make that motion?
Yeah, I'll move to approve the resolution in our packet with one additional condition, that the applicant work with staff to explore downspout material other than copper. And if in the opinion of staff, something other than copper would create a further review by the Historic Resource Board, then that staff has the authority to approve the copper downspout.
I can second that.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded with the additional special condition regarding working with staff to find an acceptable substitute for copper. If not, then if it violates the historic condition, then it would be, give staff the authority to approve the copper. Okay, is there any more discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Bolton?
Yes.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
And Chair LePage?
Yes, the motion is carried. Thank you, everyone.
Also, thanks to staff on this with the ADU. It's been a haul, so they've been very helpful. We appreciate it.
Okay, the next item in the public hearings tonight is a design study. It's DS 22279, but it has been continued to a date uncertain. So I believe we have to make a motion, don't we?
Yes, Mr. Chair, that's correct. You need to actually open the public hearing.
Okay,
If
so-
there's comments on just the continuance.
Yeah, okay, so I'm going to open this up to the public. Is there anyone here that has any comments on the continuation? Not the project itself, just the continuation. Okay, I don't see anybody. I'm going to close the public comments. Bring it back to the commission. I'm going to make a motion that we continue this item to a date uncertain.
I can second that.
Okay, can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Bolton?
Yes.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
Chair LePage?
Yes, continuation is carried. Okay, the next item on the public agenda, or the public hearings tonight, is a design study. This is DS 22-74. This is consideration of a final design study and associated coastal development permit for the remodel and addition of a 772 square foot single-story addition to an existing 1,029 square foot one-story single-family residence. It's on Monteverde Street, 3 northwest of 11th Avenue in the R1 district. You have staff, please, staff report.
Thank you, Chair. This is the final design study for the cruise project. A quick background on the project. It's a 4,000 square foot lot, and the existing house is about approximately 1,000 square feet, and it doesn't have an existing garage. And the applicant is proposing 1,800 square foot structure, and they are proposing to remove 212 at the front and add 772 square foot in the rear. And they're also proposing a 200 square foot detached garage in the front yard setback. The concept hearing was heard on February 8th, and the applicant has met all the draft conditions, and some of the key ones are the detached garage in the front setback. They have set it back 4 feet from the property line. The other one is they have reduced the size of the window. It was facing the north property, and it is about 5 feet from the finished floor, and the north neighbors are approving of the new design. And regarding the solar study, the applicant has provided a solar study, and as you could see, the shadow is at its worst between November and January. However, the shadow does not cast over the living area of the north neighbor's house. The draft condition that stated that they shall propose color of the house and the stone we need to provide more contrast. And the applicant has changed the color from winter oak to neutral ground, which is sort of a cream light khaki color. And the trim and the garage door is going to remain a cone, which is sort of a light brown. And the portico stone veneer is going to be from natural stone to brown with occasional gray. There is a privacy issue that the north neighbor to the west is concerned about, and the privacy impact is mainly on the corner lot, and they have concerns that it looks into their bedroom window. As you could see in the illustrations right here, the extension doesn't have any, the addition in the rear doesn't have any windows, and it also blocks most of the view to the rear of the west neighbor's house. And the deck is about 24 feet from the west property line, and there is a an oak tree with a 12-feet canopy that stands between the balcony and the west neighbor's house. And the applicant is proposing a 6-foot fence along the rear property line. And the applicant has stated that he's willing to work with the neighbor to come to some kind of solution. And a condition of approval can be added to state the applicant shall work with the neighbor to mitigate the privacy issue if the Planning Commission wishes to. In terms of final detail, the City Forester has approved the landscape plan, and the City Forester has recommended 3 upper canopy trees, and the applicant has proposed 3 Monterey pine trees, and that satisfies the recommendation. In terms of the exterior light, there are 8 exterior light fixtures in one style, and which is Franklin Ironworks in black color, and it is shielded and downlight fixture, and they're proposing 250 lumen output. In regards to fence, they're proposing a 4-foot high redwood grape stake fence at the front, and a 6-foot high redwood fence along the west and the south elevation. In terms of finished detail, they're proposing stucco siding in neutral ground, and the roof's going to be asphalt shingle in presidential TL, and it would have a sort of a country gray color, and the stone veneer is going to be, as I stated before, it's going to be it's going to be brown with some gray, and the windows are going to be aluminum clad, and it has divided lights, and it would be in deep taupe color. And this and the staff recommends that option of the resolution and the final design study. And if you have any question, I'll be happy to answer any.
Are there questions for staff from the commissioners? Mr. Allen, none? Mr. Bolton? Commissioner Dels?
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Okay, would the applicant like to come forward? I think the applicant architect's here.
Good afternoon. I'm Claudio Ortiz, representing Margie and Reno Cruz on this project. So thank you, Saray, for the presentation and bringing everybody up to speed on the project. So we read the staff report. We're in agreement with all the conditions, and we don't have any issues with moving the garage back. And we analyzed all those conditions, and we're in agreement with that. Also corrected the issues with the neighbor to the north by raising the windows in north elevation. So I believe they're satisfied and happy with the changes. Although a new issue has arisen with the neighbor to the west. Unfortunately, it was brought to us late last week. We tried contacting, or at least Saray reached out to the neighbor to see if we can have a conversation and come to some sort of an agreement. Unfortunately, I did not receive any calls or emails from the neighbor in hopes that we would come to some sort of agreement to mitigate the issue with the privacy. So I believe you've been to the site and you looked through the window and analyzed the conditions. There's a photo, I believe, showing what the view is from the deck, and there's this very small portion of that window exposed from the deck itself. And I'm hoping that we can work with staff under a condition of approval. Hopefully we can get the project approved and make it a condition of approval to get the project approved, and work with staff to come to some sort of agreement with the neighbor and plant some sort of hedge or tree to create a privacy that would satisfy them and us. The one thing I do want to bring up is that you would have to be on the deck itself to actually see the window from the bedroom itself. It's far back, and there's really no privacy, in my opinion, concerns from somebody being in the bedroom looking out through the doors in that direction. I believe there's enough greenery, plants, and the oak tree that obstruct the view to that window. But I'm open to hear from the neighbor, which I was hoping to hear last week to come to some sort of an agreement to see how we can appease her and come to some sort of an agreement. So if there's any questions for me, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
I have a question. So you call it a deck. And in the plans, it's more of just a small balcony, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's only 3
So
feet,
it's
5
3
inches.
feet?
Yes, 3 feet, 5. It's just mainly to open the doors, and it's all mainly, it's also for the aesthetics of it. It's to bring some light and so on. So it's not a place where somebody's going to hang out and put a table and you know, it's just
Gotcha.
mainly to just get some ventilation and so
Okay,
on.
thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Claudio? Thanks, Claudio.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there any members from the public that would like to address the Planning Commission regarding this application? I don't see anybody left online, so.
David O'Neill has his hand up.
Oh, there we go. Okay, looks like David O'Neill's here. Go ahead, David.
Good evening. I really wanted to thank Mr. Ortiz for his very thoughtful design. The old charming cottage that's around the corner from us is beautiful, and it's cute, and it's old Carmel. But what he's planning to replace it with or remodel it to is absolutely gorgeous. It's very tasteful, it's very thoughtful, and it's really bringing forward into the future the design that a lot of people admire about Carmel-by-the-Sea. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Okay, thank you, David. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to address the Planning Commission? Melissa, is that correct, Jackson? You need to unmute yourself, Melissa. Down there on the bottom. There you go.
Thanks. Hi, I'm actually the neighbor to the west, and I was unaware that anyone reached out to me last week. I've been in contact with Saray for over a month about my concerns, and spoke on the phone earlier last week, and it was never relayed to me that anyone was trying to reach out, but I would be happy to collaborate and create something we're both comfortable with as far as creating some sort of screening with the landscaping would be really great.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there anyone else from the public like to make any comments? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public comments, open it up to the commissioners. Commissioner Bolton, you want to kick it off, or do you want to punt?
I don't have a lot to say about this one, really. I basically support it. I think that there isn't a big privacy concern from that deck to the neighbor. When we were there, it didn't seem too big of a concern, but it sounds like everybody's willing to work together, so even better. And obviously, some landscaping would 100% take care of that. So I think if you plant something in that little corner of the yard, there's no possibility of any kind of view into that bedroom or whatever that room is. That room, I think it's better call. So I support the project. I'm happy with the changes that have been made, and I don't really have anything else to say. Thanks.
Thanks, Commissioner Bolton. Commissioner Delves?
I have nothing to add, and I'm ready to approve this.
And Commissioner Allen?
Yeah, really appreciate the applicant trying to work with the neighbors, and yep, ready to go to a resolution.
Okay, Commissioner Bolton, you want to make that resolution amendment
If I can
to
say
the
the
special
word.
condition for the
absolutely.
landscaping for the...
Sure, I would move to approve this project per the staff comments and special conditions, with an addition of one further condition where the neighbor and the applicant work together to resolve the potential view impact through some landscaping in that corner of the yard.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion as per staff with the added special condition regarding the landscaping to mitigate view impacts to the neighbor to the west. Is there any more discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Bolton?
Yes.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
Chair LePage?
Yes, the motion is carried. Thank you, everyone. Okay, our next item tonight is, at the public hearings, is item number 8. This is another design study, this DS23-019. It's the DeCosson project. Consideration of a concept design study for a 319 square foot net addition to an existing 1,466 square foot two-story residence and various site improvements located on Carmelo Street, 2 northeast of 8th in the R1 district. Have staff report, please.
Thank you. Before we get started, we do have a request for a continuance. As I described on our tour today, the story poles and flagging were adjusted. The footprint of the addition was properly flagged, as well as the west side, and was height certified. But where the addition ridge meets the existing roof was too low. And so it's since been adjusted, and what you saw today is accurate. But we have a neighbor to the northeast requesting a continuance for this reason. Staff doesn't support the continuance because we have received a letter describing their concerns that you've had in your packet, and the concerns don't seem to be affected by the adjustment of the flagging. So this is for you to decide, but thought I'd
Staff is not supporting the continuance.
No.
That's correct. And we like to start the meetings off, excuse me, I'm sorry. We like to start the meetings off by, when we do have these requests for continuance, we try to honor that, because if the commission were so inclined, even though staff, as Catherine rightly pointed out, we're not supportive of it, if the commission was so inclined, we'd want to do that before entering into any discussions about the project.
And the story poles have been adjusted. They were adjusted prior to,
yes,
to us going out. So what we saw was correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Just where the addition ridge meets the house was a couple feet too low. And now it's where it should be, which is approximately 1 foot from the height, lower than the height of the main house.
And what is the concern of the neighbor? They
Just that they
haven't had enough time to
assess the project as proposed.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'm going to open it up to the commissioners for discussion then. Commissioner Allen, do you have some feelings on this?
In terms of the
Whether or not to continue it.
Yeah. I'm torn because what we saw was accurate today, and so I don't know if postponing would make a difference for me, but I understand how concerning it can be to neighbors. So.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner, Mr. Chair, I think I also want to just add and remind the commission that this is the concept hearing too. This is not a final decision hearing tonight.
Yeah, I was going to say that there's plenty of time here for the neighbor to weigh in on this. They're going to have an opportunity tonight. They're going to have another opportunity, assuming this goes to final. They'll have several opportunities. So I personally do not support the making a continuance on this. But Commissioner Bolton, what's your thoughts on this?
I was going to say the same thing as Brandon said. This is concept. I don't have a problem moving forward, provided, just to be 100% clear, we saw the accurate staking. So if we saw the accurate staking, I'm fine moving forward. If we saw inaccurate staking, I would agree with the continuance. But the neighbors have other opportunities to still see this and make comments. I guess the only concern would be that, they didn't see the change, but we did. So that's it.
And Commissioner Delves?
I agree. Let's proceed.
Okay. Procedurally, do we need to have a motion? We just
No, because the continuance wasn't really on the agenda.
Yeah, it's
By
not.
consensus, you're moving forward on this.
Okay, so we're going to move forward with this. So can we have staff report?
Okay, this is the concept design study 23-019. There is an existing 1,466 square foot 2-story home and a 208 square foot detached guest house on a 4,000 square foot lot. The detached guest house is being converted to a slightly larger 264 square foot accessory dwelling unit, and this is depicted in the project plans but is not subject to review by the Planning Commission. The project involves a 531 square foot addition to the main house, and that includes a 203 square foot first story attached garage, a 46 square foot first floor laundry pantry addition, and then at the second story, a 282 square foot primary bed and bath. There's also a 76 square foot second story terrace proposed that's above the garage looking out over Carmelo Street, and that doesn't count as floor area or site coverage. The proposed project also includes the demolition of the existing exterior stone fireplace, proposed to be slightly relocated as an interior fireplace. They're also proposing 5 dormer windows. The home doesn't have any dormers presently. And they're proposing, there's a bay window at the first story of the rear elevation that has a copper roof, and they're proposing to alter that to a skylight roof.
I'm sorry, could I interrupt for 1 second, Catherine?
Yes.
I'm not getting any video at all. I just have a Carmel-by-the-Sea seal on my screen. I'd like to be able to see the presentation as well as hear it.
Joel?
Commissioner Delves, can you see the presentation from staff?
I have the same issue.
Okay.
No.
Maybe then we'll just give Joel a second then to flip it over to the
Give us
presentation.
a second here. We'll see if we can get that screen activated.
Sorry to interrupt. It was sounding good.
No, that's pretty important. We'll wait.
Just couldn't see anything.
We spend some time on these presentations, so
Yeah.
I want everyone to admire.
Quality content here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, real work went into this.
We want to see the work.
Well, now I see myself. There we go. Perfect.
So you can see it?
Thank you, Joel.
Good now? All right, thanks, Joel.
Thank you.
I won't repeat what I've said, but I'll just show you the site plan
No, that's not
here.
necessary. Yeah.
There's your site plan. There's the detached guest house. And this is what I just described. So here you see the existing on the left, proposed on the right, the 2-story with the garage at the first story with the open terrace at the second story. And then with the dormers, we have 3 proposed dormers facing west, 1 facing north, and then 1, you can't see here, facing east. Here's our south elevation. There are no dormers proposed facing south. This is our rear elevation. 1 dormer proposed, as well as that change from a copper roof to a skylight roof for the bay window. And then our north elevation. There is a second story window presently, but obviously there are 4 proposed in the project, as well as a dormer. So there is an increase in the fenestration there. Staff didn't feel it was excessive. There will also be 4 proposed windows at the first story. We'll discuss this more when we talk about the neighbors, but we'll start with forest character. Our forester identified the need for 3 new upper canopy trees to complement the 4 significant trees there already, which are proposed to remain. The applicant has identified the locations for the 3 new trees, and one of our conditions of approval will be selecting the species. Getting into privacy and views, the design guidelines encourage designs that preserve reasonable privacy for adjacent properties and maintain view opportunities to natural features. Excuse me. So while drafting the staff report, staff did not find a significant privacy or view impact with this project for a few reasons. The existing fence is proposed to be retained. It's 8 feet tall in some places. And the neighbor to the north doesn't have second story windows, so there didn't seem to be a privacy impact with the proposed new windows at the DeCossin property. As far as the relationship with the properties to the rear, the DeCossin property is lower in grade than those properties to the rear, which mitigate the impact of a dormer window. However, since writing the report, staff has received 3 letters of concern, all shared concerns: privacy, views, and light, both light access and light pollution. The letters came from 2 neighbors southeast and northeast of the subject property, and from the north neighbor. and those are a part of your packet, and one was provided as late correspondence. So the northeast neighbor that circled in red there on the left, and then the right image is a photograph taken from the northeast neighbor's property, and this is showing that incorrect flagging that we discussed, where it's too low, and it has since been increased as you viewed it today, closer to the ridge line. So they do have a filtered ocean view here with trees, and the addition would block a portion of it. So we will discuss this tonight. There's also concern from the southeast neighbor. They did not provide a photograph from their property, nor opt to be a part of the tour, but they did express concerns about the dormer window and also views, but it's unclear of their view impact. They may choose to participate this evening. As far as the north neighbor goes, as I mentioned, they don't have windows at their second story. However, they do have 3 windows at their first story of their south elevation. Staff didn't have access to this photograph previously because there's of the large fence and the large gate blocking their driveway. We didn't have a good view of this. So the proposed addition would certainly impact light access. That's for the Planning Commission to discuss. They do have their second story front balcony, and the addition doesn't appear to provide a view impact, certainly of their ocean view, more looking south. So the addition will increase the mass and bulk of the home. However, it's already a 2-story home. The residences to either side of this home are also 2-story homes. The addition ridge will be nearly 12 inches lower than the existing home, like 11 3/4, I believe. And staff feels that the addition is compatible with the site and the adjacent properties, which both do have street-facing balconies and decks themselves. So here we're looking at the roof plan and the dormers, as well as that chimney relocation. So the addition will be about a foot lower than the house, maintaining the same slope. We have the 5 proposed dormers, and again, that rear bay window will be proposed change from copper to skylights. Just a quick note that there was an error in the data table in the project plans that identified the ridge as 6 inches lower than the house rather than 12 inches, which it is. Here's a photograph of that bay window in question. And for the finished details, they're proposing to match the existing residence with stone veneer, stucco, wood shake roof. The terrace will be constructed of redwood. They are proposing wood windows. Again, the plans specify aluminum clad, but the applicant is now proposing wood with a protective finish. Redwood shutters to match what's there now. They're proposing galvanized gutters, even though there's copper on the house now, and then a redwood garage door. And here are some images of those finished details. The site coverage is currently non-conforming, but they are proposing to bring it into compliance by removing 2 times the amount of floor area they're adding. So staff has no further requests there. They've selected a light fixture. There's 3 proposed new light fixture locations, 2 at the garage door and 1 at that pedestrian door access into the garage. And it's 343 lumens and a shielded bulb. We do have a few draft conditions, one involving the unpermitted encroachments in the right-of-way. There was a past encroachment permit that was exceeded in scope. We have concrete and a rock border and steps in the right-of-way. So staff has requested or required the removal or obtaining and ensuring an encroachment permit. We also want to discuss the driveway gate this evening. Driveway gates are not something we are currently supportive of, but this is an existing feature. It's flanked on either side by stone columns, and the applicant is proposing to shift to maintain the gate, but just shift it a foot or so west. Staff feels like this is a non-conforming feature that is acceptable to retain. However, in moving it, staff doesn't want to reapprove this feature, so something to discuss. We're also requiring the upper canopy trees be specified in terms of their species and location, and we'll be doing a volume study before we come back to you. This is also a standard condition about skylight product information with automatic shades. So this would be for that first story bay window skylight proposed. And these are just concerns raised by the neighbors that I'm sure we'll discuss this evening, whether or not you would like to see any of the proposed dormer windows flagged. This is not required by our policy, but it could be requested of the applicant. And then for your knowledge, a solar study has not been conducted at this phase of the project. So staff's recommendation is to approve the concept design study, I should say with conditions. And that concludes my presentation. I do believe we have the architect with us and neighbors this evening.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for staff?
I have a question probably from
Commissioner Bolton, go ahead.
Yeah, we typically have these, as was just noted, shades for skylights. What about for dormers? Has there been discussion about that kind of thing for the dormers as well? It depends on the dormer. I could see some dormers presenting a similar impact to a skylight, depending on how they're constructed and how they're used and what roof. Certainly not every dormer would trigger this in my mind.
Excellent question, and not to my knowledge, but Brandon's shaking his head that we have not required dormer windows to have manual or automatic shades in the past.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Just a question. Thanks. Okay.
Any more questions for staff? Okay, thank you, Catherine. All right, would the applicant or the applicant's architect like to come forward? They're not here tonight, or?
I believe June is online.
Oh, he's online.
Yeah.
Oh, there he is.
Hi.
June, there you
I'm
go.
here.
Okay.
I'm here. I'm here.
All
Good
right.
evening. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Shirley Page, planning commissioners, planning staff, and audience online and at the chamber. First of all, I'd like to thank Catherine for helping us get through this process and making a very good presentation in what we think should be presented to the commissioners on what we're proposing. Also, thank you for sending us copies of the 3 neighbor letters. I did respond to the to letters from the neighbors on the northeast and southeast. I just want to reiterate, based on guidelines, residential guidelines, there's no significant and privacy view impacts with our proposal. I believe Carmel is about shared views, and that's what I think we've accomplished with our proposals. Everyone will have a shared view of whether it's the ocean or the sky. I will not repeat what Catherine has already said, but I just want to point out a few things. The proposed upper level addition has a 7-foot plate line. The existing is 7'4", so we're already 4 inches lower than the existing plate line. Our proposed upper level ridge line is lower by approximately 12 inches from the existing. As far as the north and east dormers are concerned, we would consider removing that, but I need to talk to my client if that is something the commissioner require as we move forward with our discussions. Also, I want to mention that on the plans, the main residence has only 2 bedrooms. It's been the owner's desire to have a proper primary bedroom, and that's what we are hoping to accomplish with this addition. as Catherine mentioned, details will be matching. We had a change in heart with the windows. We are now proposing a wood window with a K-Cron finish. I think that will help with maintenance while doing a K-Cron finish from Colby. We will apply for a right-of-way at the appropriate time. The proposed skylight in the main level or lower level, as I pointed out at the tour today, that side of the house is where the only natural light is coming from. The side yard don't have any windows, so allowing us to have the skylight will allow natural light to filter through the room. And also, it's a protected area from neighbors, landscaping, and by landscaping and structures from both the north and the east side. As far as the gateway location is concerned, the reason we want to move it is to have a nicer slope to the garage. But I'll let the commissioners tell me if you feel that we cannot move it, and if we move it, you want us to go through another review, then we'll probably leave it the way it is. But I'm hoping you consider our request to move it. Also, if I may share an image here. Here. Can you see this image?
Not yet.
No, June, you got to select share screen at the bottom.
Thanks, Brandon.
Yep.
So this is kind of unique walkway throughout the whole house. I think it goes back from when it was originally designed. It's a combination of brick and stone. And there are some areas that I'm hoping that the commissioner will consider for us to keep. Not only makes it unique to the property, but it also helps with the drainage and also keeps the wood from rotting, especially in the back. You can see this is a wood threshold. And if we start taking that out, these solid materials help water filter through. So it's good for drainage, and it helps keep wood from not rotting. Again, I'm just requesting this as a consideration because I thought it was a unique feature of the house. And we're only requesting in some areas. The other thing I want to have a discussion on is the gutters, stainless steel versus copper versus galvanized. The house is all copper downspouts and gutters. So we're tying in on the upper level a copper gutter to a galvanized gutter. It was mentioned in one of the discussions earlier about stainless steel. The problem, stainless steel is better than galvanized metal for salt sea air, but the problem with that is copper and stainless steel don't like each other. It causes electrolysis. So I'd also like to request, since we're not asking a big area to put copper, to maintain the copper gutter so there's continuity from existing to the new areas if this project gets approved. Request regarding flagging dormers, that'll be a challenge. I have not seen a dormer flag yet, so I need to know how you flag a dormer. It's very difficult to flag a dormer, let alone do the whole building. Anyway, and lastly, I read the approval conditions and we do concur with them. I am here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Okay, questions for June from the commissioners? No commissioner from Commissioner Delves or Bolton, no questions. And Commissioner Allen has no questions either. Okay, thank you, June.
Thank you.
All right. Members of the public, would you like to speak? Or the levies, would you like to speak? Or you're the owners?
Yes, we are.
Okay, all right, you have 3 minutes.
All right, well, thank you.
You're the neighbors?
We are, so sorry.
Yes.
We're the neighbors.
So you're not the owners?
Not the owners, sorry.
Okay, so you're the neighbors to in which direction?
We're the northeast.
Okay, all right, go ahead, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, so thank you for the time. I think you saw in our letter, our big concerns are really 3 things. One is privacy, which we do think at addition of the new windows and the addition will add a reduction in privacy, particularly in our living room area. Obviously, we have filtered views. I think you were there today and you saw from our house with the new adjusted scaffolding, which we haven't had the benefit of seeing, but will obviously reduce a substantial portion of our view, and the west-facing light, which we love so much in the afternoon, the light and the air coming in there. And obviously in the evening, similarly light pollution coming in from all those new windows and dormers. I will add too that the north-facing dormer is of particular concern, since the angle of that, I think you could see from our property, will drastically reduce even further, which we can't see today from the staking, our west-facing views. So we would love to see this neighbor make the addition. In fact, we recommended June to them. So they have a great architect. He is our architect as well. We're just hoping that the commission and the owners could consider a design that actually reduces the impact on those elements that we just discussed by either shifting the addition further to the south and potentially considering adding on top of the existing living room area, or reducing the roof height, particularly the ridge height and that dormer, which cuts off, given the angle, our views. And obviously the east-facing dormer is, I think one of the commissioners, Mr. Bolton, asked the question about light intrusion. That dormer seems like it's more like a skylight, so that's going to be shining in at night. So I think those are really our big concerns. Obviously, we love our house. We love that filtered forest view. That's why we're in Carmel, and we were certainly a bit heartbroken when we saw the design and realizing, yes, everybody should share a view, but we're hoping that no one should be blocking a view either. So we're hoping that the owners could consider some changes to the design.
Yeah, and I think I'll just add, the view is obviously a big bummer for us, but just the light and the air. I think Catherine mentioned there's a huge light block to the Zackstroms to the south of their property. They're also blocking, right, our light for the sunset and the breeze that comes from the ocean. It's like all the features that we really have come to love from the house. We're going to be, their gain of space is a huge loss for us. So it's kind of a win-lose. We're hoping that we can shift that into more of a win-win. So they can have their square footage, but us and the other neighbors around them can preserve our light, air, and to the extent possible, some of our views. That's our 3 minutes. Thank you for considering.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, do we have any other members of the public that would like to address the commission regarding this application? I don't see any hands going up online. Nobody here in the chamber, so I'm going to close the public comments, open it up to the commission for their discussion. Commissioner Bolton, you want to begin, or?
Excuse me, can I talk?
Oh, yeah, we didn't.
Sorry, my husband, I can't believe it, he does many Zoom meetings. I'm Rhonda Zaxkorn, and I'm seeing this light is very blurred here. He was supposed to be on by phone, and I'm not sure why. He says, sorry, I can't connect. Oh, that's great. Because
are you a neighbor?
Yes, we are the neighbors to the south.
South, okay, thank you.
Directly next to them. And this is unfortunate because my husband is a builder and architect. But we did send photographs. We think it's a beautifully designed project, but our concerns, like the Maxis, are privacy from the standpoint that there's one photograph we did send the committee that shadows it. It shows the projection of what the building home will look like, and it extends quite substantially beyond our house, the footprint of our house. So what is going to be happening from what we can see is that their master bedroom window and the terrace will look directly into our master bedroom as well as our living room because of the angle and the projection out. So that is a concern, a very big concern. That's probably our largest concern. The view, southern view is completely going to be blocked. And we do have 2 windows on the lower level, not the upper, but lower level of the house that are into the living room that the staff did note that will be impacted most likely, I would think, by the building. And let's see. One thing that perhaps a possible change that if my husband looking at the floor plan layout, he said that, gosh, if they only could keep the laundry room where it is, that would allow the building to come back in 9 feet, I think is what he said. And which would correct this massive projection, in front of the house looking into our bedrooms. But if I could read really quick, like we have 3 minutes. He said he's on the phone, but sorry, I can't connect. He said there was supposed to be a way to enter by phone, and he can't find it. And he also said, it creates a wall. The building creates a wall on the property line, a solid wall that eats up more than 50% of the property. He said in his jurisdictions, he's dealt with, we're in the Bay Area, dealt with many projects all around, and normally there's a 10-foot setback, but it appears this is a 3-foot setback.
Excuse me,
Is that
your
correct?
3 minutes are up, so can you summarize?
Okay. We are very concerned about the project projecting out as far as it does for privacy concerns and view.
Mrs. Exorn, hi, this is Brandon Swanson here. I do see a phone number on our Zoom call ending in 820. Is that possibly your husband's cell phone number?
Yes, hold on.
It starts with 510 and ends in 820?
Yeah, hold on. Hold on. Wait, yes, he says that's mine. He's listening.
Okay, so
yes.
he just needs to hit *6.
Yeah, then he
to be
can
able to
then he can speak.
Can you please, because he's the professional, *6 chart. Wait, *6. Hold on. Sorry. Oh gosh, I was not supposed to be doing any of this.
You're doing just fine. Don't worry. Take your time. He gets his 3 minutes as well. So take your time.
Yeah, we should be able to hear him now.
Does he say just do *6 or start?
It looks like
he's unmuted.
He's unmuted now. Go ahead, sir.
Am I unmuted?
You are. Go ahead. We can hear you. You have 3 minutes to make your comments.
All right. Thank you. I sincerely appreciate it. Having been on a design review before myself for 3.5 years, I understand what you're doing, and I appreciate it. I think in general, our concerns really are all baked in the fact that there is a second-story addition that is on the property line at 3 feet and does extend. If you look at sheets A 1.0, 1.1, and 1.2, I don't think they're actually accurately represented. Because it seems to illustrate that the 2 buildings, the second-story component, is a little further back than that 7 or 8 foot projection that's on the deck. And you talk about contextual, and you talk about human scale. I wonder if you go all the way up and down our street on this elevation, I don't think you'll see anything that projects that far out. Now that's subjective, I understand, and I appreciate that. But it does seem to be a little overwhelming for sort of the Carmel flavor of a street or the streetscape. So that's from our seat, that's really the bigger issue is just the overwhelming height and bulk of the building, virtually 3 feet off the fence. Now that's a wall line 3 feet off the fence, not the eave line off the fence. And I think you were there today. I'm sorry we couldn't be there to open the gate for you, so that you could get a flavor for it and you could get a sense of what currently exists in the rear yard, but what it will do going all the way out and beyond our structure. So I think that's really the biggest issue that we have is really the bulk and massing. And I think it was said earlier that maybe there's another place to put this. I would also say that the house already has 2 bedrooms, and if indeed they're going to add the washer dryer pantry on the first level, maybe they expand their master bathroom to marry up with the pantry and the washer dryer room below, and not construct a second story out as far as they're intending to do. But maybe another place over the building might be an opportunity as well. It would be, for us, I think, just getting a huge wall on the property line. It doesn't make any sense. And if you want to talk shade and shadow, you want to talk other things like that weren't really studied or looked at, that could potentially be a problem as well. So windows, those are arguable issues, but the biggest one I think is a bulk and mass. So I think that's what we have to say. I know it's less than my 3 minutes. I did write a letter. We did write a letter, and it outlined our concerns. And all I'm doing now is underscoring those concerns.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Hey, Chairman. Chairman?
Can I ask one last thing?
Just
Okay.
your time's up. Can we move on here? Thank you. Commissioner Dells, do you have a question?
I want to confirm, because she introduced herself as the neighbor to the south.
Yeah.
Everything I heard sounds like they're the neighbors.
They're the neighbors to the north. Yeah, they are the neighbors to the north. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, is there anyone else from the public that would like to address the Planning Commission regarding this application? Okay, I don't see any. I am going to allow the architect to have a 3-minute rebuttal. June, you want to address the Planning Commission again?
Yes. As I said earlier, regarding dormers, we're considering removing the east and north dormers. And as far as windows are concerned, I don't know how light pollution can be with the fact that we are below the neighbors to the east, and there's no windows for neighbors to the north. I want to share a drawing here because there was question about a long wall, and I think we do our best considering how tight spaces are in Carmel, and I know we are also conscious on the fact that we don't like to see long walls. So this is what we've done to achieve that. Can you see the image on the screen right now?
Yes.
Okay, so let me blow up this section of the proposed addition. So there's this solid line here represents the main level, and the dashed line represents the level above it. So there's a wall undulation there, and then as you go further to the west, there's another step back that undulates the wall further. So we are very aware that we avoid one long straight wall, but it's Carmel. This is typical. As far as the building proposed structure jutting out further than neighbors, we were at the site today. We're not jutting out further or not even further than the rest of the neighbors along Carmelo. So I just want to point that out. I still think we want to work with neighbors, but as far as redesigning, I spent a lot of time with the owners of this property, with what their desires are, and I believe we designed this within the guidelines of Carmel. And if there's any further questions, I'm here to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Okay. Unless there's anyone else from the public that hasn't spoken or feels they have a new point to make, I'm going to close the public hearings. All right, open it up to the commission for their comments. Commissioner Delves, would you like to begin?
Yeah, I will. So when I first saw the story poles go up on this one, I walk by here almost every day. I was really struck by partially by the height of the story poles, but especially by how much further the home was projecting towards the street, and especially compared to the northern neighbor. And I was already in my head doing the thinking of, all right, what's that northern neighbor have now, and what won't they have? And I'm concerned in this case that this is not so much sharing views as it really is almost, kind of taking a view at somebody else's expense. It seems to me the second level of this home is creating a great view from that second level, from that proposed terrace and the proposed master bedroom that they don't currently enjoy. And that, as a result of that, the neighbors, at least to the north, are losing something. And it's a view to the southwest. And, that was my biggest concern. I think the concerns of the northeast neighbor, I had not considered, because you don't see that from the street, but I think they're also legitimate. So I just struggle with, I'm going to say just this, with the north element of this house, which on the lower level includes the garage, the family room, and on the upper level includes the entire master suite, that the entire thing is just too far west, pushed too far west. Now, if part of that came down, as an example, you have a terrace over the garage, but half of that terrace is under roof. If that was a terrace on the rooftop on the top of the garage that didn't have a roof, that would at least achieve the effect of at least pulling the upper level back. But I'll also observe you have quite a bit of space in the backyard, and it would seem that it might be possible to shift that entire north element back some, or as someone else suggested, eliminate something that's currently in that north element, in this case, perhaps the laundry area, and relocate that. I'm not here to redesign the house. I guess my point is, I really do think this north element projects way too much to the west at height. And I really do think it is creating a significant view impact for the north neighbor in particular.
Thank you, Commissioner Dels. Commissioner Allen?
I agree with what Commissioner Delves said, and in looking at the plans, and to his point, it's not like we're here to redo anything, but it does look like what the neighbor mentioned about the laundry. That just adds more building toward the west, and so I would recommend that they go back and look at how they could potentially reduce what they're proposing coming forward from the house. In terms of guideline 11.3, I don't support the gate, and I think that that should just be removed. And then I would reconsider the what they're proposing in terms of the skylights and the dormers and anything like that. I don't even think it's necessary. So that would be it.
Thank you, Commissioner Allen. Commissioner Bolton, your comments?
Yeah, thank you. I agree with my fellow commissioners. First of all, I'll start with the gate, the fence gate. I don't support the fence gate. If you touch it, I want it to go. I'll just do it the easy ones first. The copper, no copper. We just talked about that at length. This doesn't have the same kind of potential historic benefit that the other one would have, which might, allow them to keep their copper. But we're not going to move forward with copper on this, I don't think. My big issue is with the massing and the fact that this comes forward so far to the west. We've got a hallway effect here with the neighbor to the north. They're going to have some significant sun shading and fairly significant loss of view to both the north neighbor and the east neighbor. So I'd like to see another stab at this with some reductions to this large, I even go as far as say looming addition in the front. I understand the existing house is already tall. It's not so much about the height. It's about this enormous mass that's coming forward. If I could get a 6.1 on the screen, it's pretty illustrative. Please.
Oh, yes. June, do you want to
I
just
know,
share
take a
your
second.
screen? June?
Whoever can do it, it's great.
Yeah, June, can you share your screen? Just put A 6.1 up for us. I think you can get there faster, probably. Nope. Nope.
He's getting there.
Okay.
That's great. That's, yeah, that's the opposite idea. So if you look at the bottom here, you can see the issue we're talking about. Everybody's got the same problem with this design. That addition brings this entire property, first of all, it's enormous, and it brings it really far to the west. So I think that's enough about that. I just think it needs to be changed, and I just think that picture shows it really clearly. I think it's too massive, and it creates too much of a hallway, and it'll do too much impact to the neighbors' views and sun. I don't have a suggestion how to do it. June doesn't need my help. Thank you.
Can I comment on that or no?
Let's finish up here, and then if I open it up to you, I'm going to have to open it to the rest of the public too.
Okay.
So let's get the discussion with the Planning Commission finished first. And I believe I'm the only commissioner left. So, yeah, what impressed me initially about this project and what is being repeated by all of the commissioners is the mass and bulk. And I think that relates to how it's impacting the neighbors. I mean, that's sort of the problem with the whole project. So it's a tremendous amount of mass and bulk. I appreciate that staff has made their findings based on the context, and there are two-story homes on either side, and the house to the north presents itself with a lot of mass and bulk, but it was built at an earlier time. It probably wouldn't be approved in today's context. But that be what it is, this project, when you see the staking, it just comes right out at you. It's all about mass and bulk. And like I said, the resulting impacts on the neighbors are because of that. So the direction that I'm hearing from all my commissioners is that there needs to be some type of mitigation to this mass and bulk. How that's done, that's something that the architect can do. There's probably various ways to do it. Maybe stepping it, putting it out towards the east side. I don't know. We're not here to design it. We're here to identify the impacts and where it doesn't meet the guidelines. And the mass and bulk is really the source of all the issues here, design issues. So we have a resolution, but that supported the project. See if I can get that resolution up here again. There we go. As I said, this is concept, right? That's right. So why have I got the wrong resolution up? Should be draft. I think I got the wrong resolution. My apology. My apology. This is Carson. Let me get that up here.
It looks like we've got 5 in this one. We've got the right-of-way issue. We've got the driveway gate issue. We've got the landscaping plan, tree requirements, volume study, and skylight.
Oh, you're speaking? Commissioner Bolton, sorry. Okay, here we go. I'm sorry, I had the wrong one up here. Okay. So, I mean, I don't think that we have any problem with the draft conditions that are in the resolution, but I think what I'm hearing is that the mass and bulk needs to be addressed in a pretty significant design way to mitigate these impacts, and also to eliminate them the way this house is presenting itself to the street. So would one of the commissioners like to make a resolution with that added draft condition, or I can do it?
I might, but I'm looking at the resolution, and part of it is concept phase approval findings. And I'm not sure I even agree with these. that, for example, the project is consistent with the city's objectives for public and private views and will retain a reasonable amount of solar access for neighboring sites. Staff found that condition to be met, and I don't think we did. And I think the one above it, the project is adapted to human scale and the height of its roof plate, eave lines, building forms, and similar in size, scale, and form to the buildings on the immediate block and neighbors, et cetera. I don't think I can agree that that one has been met. So I guess I'm looking for guidance, Michael or Brandon.
Well, what I would suggest is that we discard this resolution and we make a new resolution which gives direction to the applicant to redesign the addition to mitigate primarily to mitigate the mass and bulking, and with also the secondary direction that would mitigate the impacts to the neighbors to the east and to the north.
Mr. Chair, could I add a little bit to the
Go ahead. I'm
So-
just throwing this out there and trying to get some language.
Yeah, so one of the things that we have been doing, and I don't believe the language is in this one because I'm not looking at it right now, but at that very first onset of the required findings, we'll say the project as proposed or conditioned satisfies the preliminary required findings. So if you're going to condition this project to, reduce the mass and bulk by the time it comes back to final, you could add that language in there so it says, as conditioned, also it's consistent, as conditioned. So you have that option of, conditioning this resolution, saying as conditioned it's consistent, or the commission could also, continue this if you think it's so far off, continue this and bring it back for a second concept hearing. So you have two options in front of you. You can put all the conditions on that you would like to see them do before coming back for final, and we can adjust the resolution for you accordingly, or you can have them come back for another concept hearing in the future. So I just wanted to make sure you all had all those options in mind.
Well, it sounds like what you're saying, what we're saying is that there are findings that the commission doesn't agree with. And primarily this has to do with mass and bulk.
Right, and so
the conditions, I'm trying to get the language here, that's why I'm just floundering.
Can I try a motion here and see if it takes care of it?
But the design study, the concept phase approval findings, some of those are not supported by the findings of the commission.
right, and that's
So
what I
those
say.
would have to be eliminated or changed.
Or you can add that language. What I was suggesting is you add the language at the very beginning that says the project is consistent with these. What it could say is the project as proposed or conditioned by the planning commission is now consistent with those. Because if you feel like amending the mass and bulk of the project would then bring it into consistency with those, that would then be a correct statement.
Yeah, well, I'm also going to throw this back to the commissioners. How do the commissioners feel about continuing this? It seems to me we're kind of moving in the direction of a pretty big redesign here. So I think rather than creating a conflict of direction here with this resolution, I'm kind of leaning in the favor of a continuance. But how does the rest of the commission feel about that? Go, anybody jump in. Commissioners.
Chair, can you hear me?
Yes.
I make a motion to continue this project with direction to redesign with the input from the commission that there's too much mass and bulk and the property moves too far to the west in the second cell.
Okay, we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion to continue the, all right, I'm just gonna, okay, June, you have a question? Or not, no comments, just a question.
Direction. I understand mass and bulk, I understand too far to the west, but I need a bit of clarity when we design this. Can I just share this screen again, just so I'm clear? It's easier if I share the screen. So I understand that this mass is the issue. Are we talking about the second story mass, or are we talking of this first floor mass? Because it makes a big difference, because there was a discussion on removing the laundry, which is one of the major requests of donors. I want clarity whether the issue is the second story mass.
It's the opinion of the commission that the design as presented presents too much mass and bulk. Now, obviously if you took the second story off, it'd have less mass and bulk. We're not here to redesign it.
I understand.
You know, so I think we've been pretty clear that, and also we're being clear in the fact that we are continuing this, that it needs to be redesigned. So other than that, I don't know what else additional, information we can give you.
Oh, no, for example, if I keep where the garage is and move, as an example, I'm not sure that's what we're going to do, and just shorten the second story master bedroom addition. Is that?
Well, we're not gonna redesign it right now, June. That's what you do. So between now and your next presentation, I'm hoping that you will take the direction that we've given and redesign this. So we have a motion made to continue it.
And we had a second.
And we have a second. Is there any further discussion from the commissioners? Okay, can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Bolton?
Yes.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
Chair LePage?
Yes, the motion to continue is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Thanks. Okay, we just have one more item, so I'm going to just power ahead. Is that okay with you guys? Anybody need a break? You okay? All right, we're going to go for it. All right, so the next item on the public hearings tonight is another design study. This is DS 22-342, the Land D project, consideration of a combined concept and final design study for a substantial alteration to an existing two-story single-family residence. The proposed changes include 18 square foot reduction of floor area, alterations to the existing roof forms, roof heights, and changes to roofing materials, window replacement and alterations throughout, new exterior wall cladding, removal and relocation of skylights, and new exterior lighting. It's located on Camino Real, 3 southeast of Ocean Avenue, R1 zone. Staff report, please. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Chair. So the subject site is a 4,000 square foot lot currently developed with a 2,132 square foot residence. It is currently non-conforming in respect to floor area. The applicant is proposing a small demolition resulting in a 2,113 square foot residence. Despite the floor area decreasing, the project is a substantial alteration primarily due to the change in roof forms and exterior appearance, and thus qualifies as a Track 2 project, which is why it's before you today. Additional project components include landscaping and site coverage modifications. So because this is a substantial alteration and not a, say a Track 2 for floor area additions as you're used to seeing, there was no site assessment involved, so the trees were unrated by the forester. However, there are 6 trees on site, all oaks. There is some limb removal proposed. Tree 6, as identified on the landscape plan, has a limb that is currently proposed to be removed. That's located at the rear of the property and is covered by the photograph shown. And then also, once the story poles were installed, it was identified that a branch on tree 12, which is shown in the photograph, that's from a 24-inch oak, will impact a new roof form at the front of the property. Again, this tree has been unrated, so the significance is unknown. So condition of approval number 31 has been included, stating that a tree removal permit shall be applied for and approved by the city forester or the Forest and Beach Commission as appropriate prior to building permit issuance for any proposed limb removal for tree T12 as noted on the landscape plan. Should the permit not be approved, the project shall be revised to maintain and protect any limbs that has not been proposed for removal, and the project shall be rescheduled for consideration by the Planning Commission. And then we also have our standard tree protection conditions of approval that are noted as conditions of approval number 22 through 24. So staff has not identified any privacy or view impacts associated with the project. So on the top is what is currently proposed, and the bottom is the existing condition. I'll just walk you through the changes. That's probably going to be the best way to explain the project anyway. So looking at the north elevation, this is the currently existing rear roof form. This roof form is proposed to be dropped down by about 2.5 feet. The drop in roof form is indicated in the shade of blue, and you can see here on the proposed, oh, I'm sorry, I have these north and south elevation marked wrong. However, the rear roof form is proposed to be dropped in the ridge height, and then the front roof form is proposed to be changed from a hipped roof to a gabled roof form. So again, staff has not identified any view impacts associated with the project, as the front roof is maintaining the same ridge height and the rear roof form is getting lower. And then in terms of privacy impacts, there are some new windows located throughout, as you can see in the comparisons. However, all the new windows are generally located within the same locations as the existing windows. Staff has also not heard from any of the neighbors or has received any correspondence up until the meeting. And then here's also just a comparison of the project from the front and rear elevations. So in respect to mass and bulk, as well as the building and roof form, the proposed alterations simplify the roof and building form. Currently, the primary building form is comprised of a hip roof feature closer to the street and a gabled roof form that is approximately 2.5 feet taller at the rear. The applicant is proposing to change the front hipped roof form to a gabled roof form and lowering the rear gabled form to sit only a few inches above the front gable. While the change from the hip roof form to the gabled roof form may have the perceived appearance of additional masses viewed from the street, the height of the roof form is proposed to remain at the same elevation. So again, in respect to the finished details, the existing board and batten siding is proposed to be replaced with new board and batten siding throughout. The residence will be re-roofed with a new comp shingle roof. The siding is supposed to be painted with a Texas Angel color, which is a light beige. There'll also be a ledge stone wainscot, and then the residence will have aluminum clad windows throughout, finished with a anchor gray color. And then the doors, garage door as well, and the fence and gate will have a oak stain. So the Planning Commission has not been supportive of color schemes with primarily bright white finishes with highly contrasting trims. However, the Texas Angel color appears to be subdued enough that it does not present the stark white appearance and has earth tones worked into the underlying color as suggested by the residential design guidelines. Additionally, the inclusion of the stone and natural wood elements help to add additional elements of color into the building other than the stark contrast of black and white, which the Commission has not been supportive of in the past. So if the Commission finds that the color scheme is not to be in compliance with the residential design guidelines pertaining to color, a condition of approval should be included in their motion. Lastly, the non-conforming 6-foot-tall wood fence at the front property boundary is proposed to be removed and replaced with a 4-foot-tall wood fence. The site is proposed to be accessed by a 4-foot-tall wood gate bound by two 12-inch by 12-inch, 4.5-foot-tall stone columns on either side of the gate. It has been staff's understanding of recent Commission direction regarding fences and walls, and based on public sentiment, that excessive use of columns along a fence line may not be in keeping with the forest character. However, these columns are proposed to only be used to demarcate the property entrance and are not to be used in regular intervals along a fence line. Staff is seeking direction from the commission as to whether these columns are appropriate and add unnecessary complexity or formality to the fence line. So if the commission is supportive of the columns, staff recommends that they be reduced in height to approximately the same height as the fence. And this recommendation has been included as condition of approval number 33. However, if the commission is not supportive of the columns, the condition should be amended to require that the columns be omitted from the project. So as I noted in the beginning of the presentation, the existing residence is non-conforming in respect to floor area. In accordance with the municipal code, a lawful non-conforming structure may be maintained, repaired, or altered as long as such maintenance, repair, or alteration does not increase the non-conformity, and all work performed conforms to all requirements of this chapter. However, the code continues to state that the substantial alteration of any non-conforming building or structure that includes removal of any non-conforming building element or structural element shall require correction of that specific non-conforming building element or structural element be constructed in conformance with the requirements of new construction. The removed nonconformity shall not be rebuilt or reestablished at that location on the site or elsewhere on the site. Simply put, while the building exceeds the allowable floor area, it may be maintained, altered, and repaired, provided that there is no additional floor area added to the site. Additionally, if any floor area has been removed as a result of the alterations, it cannot be rebuilt in the same location or elsewhere on the site. So the applicant has provided a comprehensive demolition plan illustrating how the exterior walls are proposed to remain throughout the project, thus maintaining the non-conforming floor area. For example, the upper floor demolition plan and the existing east elevation are shown to have the wall tops cut down to reduce the plate height by about 2.5 feet to accommodate the lowering of the rear roof form while maintaining the existing exterior wall. Special condition of approval number 34 has been included, stating all exterior demolition shall be in substantial compliance with the approved demolition plan as shown on sheets A1.1, A2.2, A3.2, A3.6, and A3.6 of the approved design study plans. And changes to the demolition plan shall be approved in writing by the Community Planning and Building Department prior to commencement of any additional demolition work. So with that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving a combined concept and final design study for a substantial alteration to an existing 2-story single-family residence. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Are there questions for staff from the commission? None. Commissioner Dels, Mr. Bolton, none?
I do.
Oh, we have Commissioner Dels, go ahead.
This is a concept and final. Those are rare. What's the rationale for that?
There is a provision in the code that says, I believe we included as one of the recitals in the resolution. I'm on the spot, so I'm trying to not get the, do you have it, Brandon? Thank you. Section 17.58040.b.2, the director may authorize concept review and final review details to occur at the same meeting. There was really nothing in this project that warranted 2 reviews. We don't have any major privacy or view impacts. There's no issues with forest character. If we wanted to do this in 2 hearings, we could, but we didn't find anything that warranted a separate concept and final hearing.
And Commissioner Delves, could I put it in more plain language? So this, if you remember from the beginning of Evan's presentation, this actually started as a track 1. And as we got into it, we realized basically it's going to look like a new house from the street. And so in previous direction, we've been elevating these to the Planning Commission and effectively turning it into a track 2. And so we felt comfortable based on that and all the things that Evan just said, that this could be combined. But of course, that's up to the Planning Commission. If you don't agree, we can certainly do concept and final, but we do feel it meets that test in the code.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to hear it. Thanks.
Okay, any more questions for staff? Okay. Thank you, Evan. All right. Would the applicant like to come forward and address the Planning Commission at this time?
Thank you. My name is Matt Hanner with Carmel Building and Design, here representing the client. Thank you, Commission, and thank you, Director, for having us this evening. And I'd like to thank Mr. Court for asking all the questions and digesting a really complex project into understandable manner. We were charged with taking a home that's been in Miss Landy's family. It was her father's before her. She recently acquired it, updating it, simplifying it, taking existing 4 different floor levels inside the house and simplifying it to 2 different floor levels. Currently, you have to go downstairs from the upstairs to go back upstairs to the upstairs, and you can't get from the living room to the kitchen without using stairs. She's eyeing being able to live here for quite some time, being able to age in place with this house, and that was what led us to the design that we came up with. We did try to keep things very simple. We tried to keep it mainly intact and exactly what it is and the flavor of it, and not change the house in any substantial way. We realized we couldn't increase the floor heights to get the floors to level out, so we decreased the floor heights. When we did that, we identified the back half of the house was a larger scale than we would like to see, and that's where we came in with dropping the roof line, the 2 feet, and coming into conformance on the back half of the house and reducing the scale and mass of that. That also necessitates, by having the gables there, to get from the front half of the house to the back half of the house upstairs, it needs to be gable roofs, because if you hip the roofs, you lose the head height to be able to pass between those. And at that point, that led us to the decision to try and gable everything so that we were consistent on the details throughout the project. Like you said, we've added no square footage. We've tried to match the elements. We've gone with painted aluminum gutters. We've tried to match everything that has been recommended previously by planning commissions on other projects. And I'm available for questions if you have any. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for the applicant? Seeing none. Okay, thank you. Okay, are the owners here? Did they want to make some comments?
We're actually online, Commissioner.
Yeah, go ahead if you want to.
So all we wanted to say, first of all, thank you all for listening to our proposal. And Evan, thank you for being very involved with this. We appreciate all the detail. We just want to say, as Matt said, there's many different strange levels in this house, and it made it impossible for our mother to use the house in her later years because she was wheelchair bound. And so our goal, understanding our health history, is to also make sure we're able to use that property for the rest of our lives and bring it into a way to streamline it for us. And our big premise when we started this is we wanted to keep the integrity of the Carmel house, not change too much of it, but make it livable for us. And I know that, as Matt said, that's what we have all had our eyes towards when we were planning and designing this. So we just, we're just asking for your consideration and approving the concept and the design so we can move forward. We've been doing this for about 2 years now, trying to get this going.
And really, my mother was unable to use the house the last 5 years of her life without extreme difficulty because of the levels, 4 levels, and there was not a single level where she could use her own bathroom or any bathroom. So basically, she was confined to her wheelchair, and it made bathing and using the restroom almost impossible for her.
She couldn't do it.
And she'd been there for 45 years. So that I'm looking to age in place in this home. That's my story.
So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else from the public that would like to address the Planning Commission regarding this application? I don't see anybody left. Well, maybe David. David, you want to make comments?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to say that I met with some citizens that live near there, and that they really appreciate the new design. They think it looks really beautiful. I agree with them. I also just wanted to let you know that I've been meeting with people regarding this new design guidelines, and some people that were concerned about the monumental pillars, the issue that they were having. And we went through and we looked at a number of them. And what they really didn't like is when these pillars of rock just came out of nowhere and had no connection to the home or to the landscape. So they really liked it when the home had some rock on it, and so did the pillars, or there's landscaping with the same kind of rock and things like that. When it tied it together, it made it more appealing. And also, they understood when I was discussing with them the fact that, you know, rock pillars were actually created traditionally to hold up gates so they could swing. So they are traditional to have with wood fences as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, David. Okay, is there anyone else from the public that would like to address the Planning Commission? I don't see anybody here, so I'm going to close the public comments, open it up to the commission for their comments. Commissioner Bolton, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I just want to make sure everybody can hear me because my headphones died. So now I'm just on the raw audio from the computer.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. I support the project. I only really have 3 comments. The first one's to do with the trees in the front. That must have been a beautiful cluster of oak trees at one point, but they're dying. So I think we're going to find no problem getting support for some, you know, trimming and whatnot for those trees. It's really too bad because they must have been amazing. And I would really encourage the owners to try and replicate that. I know that's not really possible, but something, because that really made the front of the house, in my opinion.
God willing, we'll have the time
Right.
to do that.
Start with bigger trees. How about that? Anyway, but that's my comment on those trees. They obviously are not going to last. It's too bad, but we need to probably replace them with something. I'm not really supportive of the columns for the gate as they are now. They're too grand. I don't have a problem with the stone, as David pointed out. It's not the stone. It's the fact that they're making more of a grand entrance, right? And so if you want some stone there to support the gate, that's great. You have stone on the house, just make them more subtle. And then the last thing is it's too white for me. I understand that's not a white color, but when you put that next to the dark trim, you're going to have that same high contrast look that is very popular. And I understand it looks good, but I am really against it now. I'm getting more and more against it. You may have noticed if you're listening to me. I'm really not liking this very strong trend, and I want to try and stop it. So I would very much encourage you, I'm going to support this project, but I very much encourage you to tone it to a darker, deeper, more natural tone. I think you could still do it. I think you just go a couple shades darker and it would look lovely. In fact, we saw a house earlier today that was dark gray. Nobody does that. Now, we don't want a lot of gray houses and a lot of dark houses, but the fact is it was a different thing and it was an earth tone. It looked like a granite stone color. It wasn't just some blue gray. So anyway, that's my comment. I'm getting more and more picky about color, I guess. But I like this project and I appreciate the reasons for it, and obviously not knowing about those internal considerations. I mean, my goodness, you need to do something. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bolton. Before we go on, I appreciate your comments, but during the comments by the commission, I'm requesting that you don't make any responses. Thank you. Commissioner Delves?
Yeah, I'm very supportive of this project. I live just 1 block north of it and do walk by it every day, probably twice a day. I've always loved the house. I love particularly just the front of it. I want to give you an option to think about, which is, would you consider keeping the current gate? Because that gate, and it may be the same color as the house, it's a very charming entrance to that house. And you know, I've always admired the gabled gate. So when I say fence and gate is what I'm talking about. But that gate, at least the opening for the gate, is gabled. Your new house will be gabled. Maybe it works. And it's just a suggestion. It's not going to be a condition or resolution. On the paint color, I don't have as strong opinions on paint as Chris does, but I respect his opinions on it. And so I'd go along with that and encourage you to maybe look for something that's not so trendy. It's not a trendy house. The more you can respect the history of it and what it was, I think you'll be happy with it. So well done. Ready to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Dels. Commissioner Allen?
I can't add anything else. I think they both said what I was thinking, and I think it's thoughtful design, and I appreciate the effort that they took to ensure that this was really done well.
Thank you, Commissioner Allen. Okay, we have a resolution here with special conditions. It sounded like everybody was supportive of number 33, the intricate stone columns. The stone columns adjacent to the intricate shall be reduced in height to approximately the same height as the fence. Commissioner Dels loves the existing gate. But as it is presented, I believe the special condition 33 is supported by the commission. And are there any other special conditions that we need to add to this? The color, the color is, we don't, do we have the authority to, what do we do about color? Because I mean, our guidelines say that we want natural saturated colors. So that's the goal. And as Commissioner Bolton said, we're really trying to get away from this high contrast white. You know, it was really white and black, which was becoming so popular. But we really want to, traditionally Carmel has been more subdued colors, less contrast between body and trim, more highly saturated colors, you know, colors which kind of reflect our natural environment, you know. So that's what we, the direction that I believe that the rest of the commission would like you to take. So having said that, would somebody like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Go ahead.
I think it's just to make a motion to approve the resolution in our packet as is, with no further conditions.
Okay, but with the directions, they work with staff to come up with a color palette that is less contrast?
Yes, I would add that.
Okay.
I can second then after that is added.
All right, we have a motion, it's made and seconded. Any more discussion?
Mr. Chair, so is that, should we assume that's being added as a condition then?
That is a condition.
Okay, thank you.
All right, is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Bolton?
Yes.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
Chair LePage?
Yes, the motion is carried. Thank you. It's a very nice project. Okay, that concludes the public hearings tonight. The next item on our agenda is the director's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Great job tonight, as always, by the Planning Commission. We got through another large agenda. I feel like we've really found a way to streamline these, so congratulations again. It's that time of year where it's still light outside, so it feels like we got done really early.
Yeah.
But it is still a little later. It's 6:45. A couple of quick announcements, not as much tonight. I wanted to announce this, this probably isn't going to excite too many people, but it is exciting. Just starting this week, the city is now taking online payments for all of our permits that get processed through the Community Planning and Building Office. If you've worked with the city and had to process a permit, you'll know that that is actually a big deal. We have been slowly kicking and dragging ourselves into the 21st century over the last couple years, and this is another big step. You can make payments outside of our normal business hours. When you work with Leah and Sullivan up front, they send you a link directly to paying for a permit. It's really wonderful. It's very convenient. So we're excited that just got started this week. Another big announcement, I think it's Commissioner LePage is Zoom bombing me from the dais.
So I'm trying to get that out of there.
In-person Zoom bomb.
Jesus.
I've never experienced this before.
I can't get rid of this. Plug my microphone.
There you go. Thank you. Well done, sir. So I want to let you know that the wireless ordinance, so we had that great workshop here recently. I'm already been working with our third-party attorney. Our goal is to be back to you May at the earliest, June at the latest with their next round. So that we are trying to move that along expeditiously while it's still fresh in everyone's mind. If we let too many months go by after a big meeting like that, I think it gets fuzzy in our heads. So shooting for May, that's a little optimistic, but no later than June, we'll be back to you with those updates. Another thing just to make you aware of, the concept of bringing back a design review board is going to be at the City Council for discussion next meeting, so May 2nd. It's an agendized meeting at the City Council, so all the Planning Commission could come if you want to. It's not a Brown Act violation because it's a City Council meeting. You can show up and listen, testify if you'd like. But really, the City Council is going to be discussing the prior approach that existed in the city from 2000 to 2009, and also looking at what Monterey does. Through the Design Traditions Project, there has been some sentiment in the community and from the council to look at reinstating that design review board and talking about how the duties might be shared between the Planning Commission and the Design Review Board. I think Commissioner LePage, you were around when that existed. So there was
I was on the DRB.
So there was a division of duties back then. So yeah, May 2nd, mark your calendars if you want to come and listen to that or participate in that conversation with City Council. And then the last thing, just to let you know, as you all know, we have been working on updating the housing element of our city's general plan. We have an ad hoc committee of the council of council members Richards and Ferlito. We have our sort of A-plus crack team here on my staff of Marnie and Catherine, who have been leading that charge. And big news, there's a housing element website that has been created. It's up on its own. It's dedicated. You can link to it from the homepage, from the city's webpage. It's really fantastic. It's got a ton of great information. It does that, it informs, but it also accepts information. It has a really cool feature where you can leave like a sticky note style idea or thought about the housing element. It can be anonymous if you want, and we're able to collect information from everybody who wants to participate in this update to our housing element and how we creatively rise to the challenge of planning for 350 new units in the city and do it in a way that feels and looks like the city of Carmel-by-the-Sea. So we encourage people to go to the new website for the Home Carmel Project, HOME, which stands for Housing Opportunities Made Easier. That's how we're marketing the next cycle for our arena and housing element update. So that's what I have. Again, thanks for a wonderful meeting tonight.
May I ask a question?
Please.
Okay. So what seemed to me, because I've been to a lot of the housing element discussions, and what seemed to be something that I saw concerning to residents as they spoke was this concept that we missed a deadline to present a case that potentially we wouldn't be able to make our sixth number. So I just wanted to maybe bring up as we go into that seventh round, is there like a date that we should put on our calendar to have a discussion about potentially are we going to, present a case for that seventh round that we can't hit our number to the state, or, so that from what I'm hearing from residents, I think they want to be heard prior to that date coming and going.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the seventh cycle, which is effectively 8.5 years from now, that's when we get there. It is already being discussed at the state level, so it's an appropriate question. Also on the upcoming city council agenda is an item to discuss potentially some sort of resolution or statement from the city saying, exactly what you're talking about. We want to get involved and discuss early on with the next cycle so that maybe more local voices can be heard. We didn't miss any deadlines. That's a misconception. There were no deadlines necessarily for when you could argue or fight. It was basically this is your number. It's already been decided for you. Enjoy. But we feel like if we get out of it, and other jurisdictions feel that if we get out of it ahead early enough, we can be part of the conversation because we all recognize that there is a need for housing in California. But I think that there needs to be more local voices heard about how we do that. One of the other common misconceptions is, you know, that if we fight this cycle of RENA, the 6th cycle that we're going into, some cities around the state have basically said, no, we're not going to do this, and they're entering in pretty costly and difficult legal battles with the state, and all in the name of, you know, local control. But the misconception is that if you don't have an adopted housing element this year, you actually do lose your local control. You lose the ability to permit projects. You lose all of your permitting authority. You start to lose the access to state funding for things like Measure X. And you can start getting fines of up to $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a day. So there's a lot of local control that you lose by not adopting a housing element. And the thing about adopting your housing element is that it can speak to how you're going to reach those goals. So we can do it in a very Carmel way. But I think that we're all supportive of having that conversation for the 7th cycle, which is, you're very correct, is starting very soon. So that's another thing to tune in for to the city council meeting.
Okay, that's all you have to.
That's all I have. I can blabber no more.
Okay, everyone, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.